This is my absolute favorite tote bag, and I'm not the only one who thinks so. It's lightweight, comfortable to carry, easy to get in and out of, and it's gone viral on social media. Best of all, it's surprisingly easy to make. Hi, I'm Penny from So Chill Sewing Studio. I help people make practical items they will actually use, which is perfect for a beginner sewist. This project I think will surprise you. For years, my never full bag has been my favorite tote because it's the perfect size. I love having a roomy interior, a pocket for the little things, a place to clip my keys so they never get lost, and shoulder straps that are comfortable enough to grab and go. So I designed this quilted bandana tote with all of those everyday features that I love in mind, but made it with beautiful quilted cotton fabric like this bandana fabric that you can customize to match your own style. In today's video, I'll show you exactly how to sew this viral quilted bandana tote step by step. And be sure to stick around until the end because I'll share a little design detail that makes this bag look polished, high-end, and professionally made. So let's get started. These are the two pieces that's going to be my exterior, and I'm going to use this flex foam. I found this at Michael's. Hobby Lobby also sells it too, but they sell I think it's 18-inch by 1.25 yards. This one was a little bit bigger, so I liked that. So we'll give this one a go. It says lightweight stability, but it looks exactly like what I was using with the Hobby Lobby version. So what we want to do right here is we're going to open these up. And there is a right side and a wrong side. So where you have the tag is the wrong side. And you can kind of tell by the fabric. It just looks a little rough on this side. So I want to iron all of this down. I want to iron all this just to get it nice and crisp. And then we're going to lay it over. I'm just going to trim it up a bit, just trim these edges off. Then I'm going to fuse it onto the flex foam, and then we'll start quilting. So I have it all ironed, and I'm going to go ahead and trim it up just a tad. And the size of the bandana determines the size that I'm going to quilt. So right now, sometimes the print is not on the grain, and that's okay, but we're going to work with the print so it's not crazy. So I'm just going to kind of come out as far as I can and trim off all of these sides. Just, you can kind of see how wonky it is right there. And I want to make sure that one of my lines here on my ruler is going right down the side here. Okay, so that looks good. We're just going to do this on all sides. Let's flip it around. You can see they're not square. So we're just going to try to square it up as best as possible, but our goal is to get rid of this seam. I'm going to do this on both of them. All right, so this one's pretty well squared up. I do have a lot left on the edges, and that's okay because I'm going to quilt it. But I'm going to go ahead and do that on the other one, and then we will fuse it onto our flex foam and start quilting. One thing I do want to mention is I am going to quilt the whole piece. I don't usually cut this off right now and then quilt it. I know I'll have extra and I can always make a little wallet I can make other things out of that, but for right now, I'm going to quilt this whole thing, and then I cut it down to the bag specifications. All right, so we're going to cut this piece down, and we're going to find, seems like this is the glue side. Yeah. Alrighty, so I'm just going to lay this over. It might not fit exactly, and that's okay. We're going to trim it down anyway. But I do like to kind of get it lined up and centered on this sheet. And then I will be cutting this off. And I'll take it to the iron and infuse this to the bandana. Okay, I'm just lining it up the best I can, and I do like to start in the middle. We're going to go ahead and have a little hangover. That's okay. Just want to make sure it's all covered. So I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm just going to set my iron down and just press it from the inside out. This one is all done, and before I take it over, I'm going to make a mark in the middle. Just going to use my friction pin, and I'm going to just take my center of the little flower, or whatever we want to call that, and just make sure that my first stitching line is going to go right down this line. That's the center of the bag, no matter how wide we're going to make it. All right, there's our first line. So we'll start stitching down this way, and then I will probably do 1.5 inches because I wanted it to go right through this little design and come right down through here and here and here. This will not show. I'm going to be cutting this off probably about right here. So I'm not worried about this line. This part does take a little bit of time. I would say 20 to 30 minutes because we're doing a lot of straight stitching. I do have my walking foot on here as well as my quilting guide. So once I stitch right down through this line, I'll be watching this one. I'll slip this over, put it on that line and stitch and keep going. The challenging part is all of this on the side, but we'll get to that. So I do have my stitch length about 3.5. And we're going to get started, see how that looks. Sometimes it catches on the bar, so just have to stop. When you stop, make sure your needle is down. All right, so there is our first one. Yeah, that looks great. And then I'm just going to bring this guide right over that stitching I just did. All right, so I have both pieces quilted, and you can see it, the thicker it is, you kind of have to maneuver it in the space that you have, but I got it to work. And I really like the foam. It just gives it a nice structure. So your bag will sit up rather than just kind of flop over. So I like that as the end result. But I do need to, now I can trim to the size that I'm wanting, and I kind of let the design dictate that. And I could bring it in if I want, but I did like the size that I made for Jennifer. And so let's take it to the cutting board and cut it down to the size that we want. I did make some notes. So I cut this down to 19 by 13. So let's see if we can do that. Let's see what size we are right now. We are, yeah, about 19 by 21. So I want 19 this way, 13 this way. Okay, so let's just kind of trim. This is going to be the top, so I really want this to be even. And so I'm going to line up my line with the top of these little black dots. And I do want to make sure that this line goes right down here. That way I know it's squared off. Okay, so let's just try that. Okay, that looks really good. And we need to trim this down. So let's trim this down so we have an inch on each side. Okay, so this is not going to be a problem because it's down at the end and it won't be in my measurements at all. So let's see what I have. Okay, so it is 19 inches wide. And I'm just going to measure this bag one more time to see what my length is. So that's 9. Yes, so I do need to come down here 13 inches. So let's just line it up on the board. Okay, so see, we're cutting off this much down here that we can use for something else. We can make a little makeup bag, a little wallet. Okay, so we can make something else out of that. So set that aside. Now we're going to cut off 3 by 3. So we're just going to measure that. And we're going to do the same on this side. This is our boxed corners. I haven't figured out a project for these yet. If you think of something, let me know. I hate to throw them away. Seems like there's something we could do with them. Okay, so there's our bag. We're going to cut the other one the exact same way. Now find our top. All right, and it's right there. As you can see down here, it didn't get through the center. These bandanas, they're not square. So you just have to kind of work with what you got. So let's see, what did we do over here? We had about 1.5 inches. And I'm not going to have that on this side, so I'm just going to square it up the best I can. Remember, this is one of the most important lines right here. And then come out as far as I can. Okay. All right, there we go. We're going to come up and do the same on the sides. Right now I'm just going to come out as far as I can. And then we'll measure it up so each side of the bag is the same. Okay, so we can go ahead and lay this one on top and just see how we're doing. Oh, that's perfect. Wow. Okay, so we're going to come down 13 inches. Right here. And then we're going to do our 3x3. You can make these corners any way you want it, but I like the 3x3. Makes the bag stand up really well. That way, when you're at the store and you're trying to dig through, getting a few things, it'll stand up for you. You don't fight it. Okay, so we have both of our pieces for the outside. So they're 19 inches wide and they're 13 inches all the way to here. So the bag is actually going to sit up kind of like that. So that gives you plenty of room to get in and out. Now we can decide whether we're going to trim it with binding, which I think we're going to put a zipper in. And let's just line these up, make sure they're the same. Yep, they're slightly off there, but we're good. And at this point, we can decide whether we want to put our name on it. Now, I did that with Jennifer's, but I actually did it after the fact, which made it that much harder. So this would be the time when these pieces are loose to go ahead and embroider. So what do you think? Should I do it? Just put my name across here? Should I just put my monogram right in there? Maybe I'll just put a monogram. I'll put a P on there. I'll find something on my program and do that with my embroidery machine. All right, let's go into this program and see if I can find a P monogram embroidery. And I just need a 4x4. And I just want it to just be a P. Nothing super fancy. I do kind of like that though. Looks like that might be 2 colors. I really don't want 2 colors. This is too thin, too ornate. Just want something simple. I do kind of like that one. That one's cute. It's got a little flourish, kind of like the bandana. Yeah, let's do this one. And what sizes does it come in? So it looks like I need to do the middle one, the 3x2. So it's about a 3x3. So that'll work out fine. So that's the middle one. So let's go ahead and download this. I'm going to put it on my computer. Let's just throw it on the desktop. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to take the 3 DST and I'm just going to move it onto my little thumb drive. Let's make sure it's there. Yes. Okay, now we're ready to take that. I'm going to eject it and take it to the machine, and we're going to add that to the bag. All right, so I'm getting my sewing machine set up here, and I just need to decide where I'm going to put it. And it's going to be 3 inches. And I know the center is going to go down through here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. This is 1.5 point. Okay, so let's make that point there. And then it will okay, it'll kind of be in this section right here. All right, so it'll be right in here in this section. So I'm going to hoop this up and get it started. All right, it is all done. Looks great. So I'm going to just snip off these little threads. Sometimes there's a little thread in between, like right there. That's where these curved scissors really come in handy. Okay, that's looking good. So I'm going to take that off of there. I'm going to take it off the hoop. All right, now this is a tearaway, so that's what I can do is just get rid of the back, just like that. I did go ahead and ironed this all out. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it. Let's just trim one at a time. Not going to box it out just yet, but I do want to kind of line it up. This is going to be the lining, but I need to put on the interfacing, but I don't really want to waste the interfacing. So we're going to cut some of this off. Okay. You can see that wasn't really lined up, so we're going to go ahead and line that up too. But our goal here is to trim off for the lining. Okay, let's do this other side. We'll do the top. You can see it's just not quite lined up yet. So let's go ahead and trim this top. We want to make sure that is square. Okay, now we're going to be good. That's half the battle. That's half the battle with these bandana pieces. Okay, so we're going to come down 13. And we're going to go ahead and I have to go this way. Lay out our interfacing. This really helps the bag become structured. I was so glad that I interlined or interfaced this piece. I could tell a huge difference. Just check out some of your bags and see what the lining looks like. Is it interface? Is it just a floppy piece of fabric? What does that look like? Just kind of study your bag, and that's how I decided I was going to interface it. Okay, so this is ready. I think I need to flip this over. Yep. I really should mark that, but I haven't. Okay, so this is ready to be ironed down. And this piece we can make the tabs out of. We can make a keychain, so we're going to keep that. But we're going to do the same thing here. Okay, I'm going to mark it this time. I'm going to be smart. Okay, so that's going to be out of the way. You can tell it was printed. It just kind of, we can go ahead and go this way, I guess. Okay, that looks good for the lining. So we'll cut around this piece. Get the top. And we're just going to cut straight across for now. Not going to worry about those boxed edges until we get our interfacing on. Okay, so I did mark it. So that's our right side. So we want to turn it this direction. So it's just a medium weight interfacing. Nothing too structured, but it's not the featherweight either. Okay. Keep this for our little things. Not getting rid of that. Let's just trim this up. And one more piece. So first, let's figure out where we want our pocket. And what I did was I measured in about a ½ inch on each side. So about a ½ inch up and a ½ inch in. So we're going to be about right here. And then we're going to pull it out a ¼ inch. Is that in the middle? Okay, this is our middle spot here. All right, so I'm just going to mark it. That's where I want it. Same over here. And then how far down do we want it? Here is our corner, so about right there. So we'll line up our marks that we just made. Bring it down to here. Because this is going to be the top edge of our pocket. So I'm just drawing it out where I want it. I'm going to draw, these are my cut lines, and then I'm going to interface this piece as well. But I'm going to cut it first so I don't waste my interfacing. Okay, so that's my cut line. Let's go ahead and cut it, and then we'll make sure that's what we want. So there's really no pattern that, let your fabric guide you. And again, we're going to keep all these pieces for other accessories. You don't want to get rid of any of that. Okay, here's our pocket. So let's lay out our piece. And our pocket, it's going to go on the lining, but I'm just using this as a guide, and that's perfect. So I do want to interface this piece, and I just do half of it. Seems like that's plenty. Then decide which you like as your front. I kind of like this as my front side. All right, so we'll just line this up. Just kind of you can see through it, so just use that as your guide. Okay, so we're going to iron this on. This is our pocket. So let's iron that first. Okay, so we've got half of it done. So now we're going to flip it over and put right sides together. And then we're going to leave about that much open. And we're going to stitch around and turn it around, turn it inside out, and then just top stitch the top for now. Okay, so we're going to start stitching just 1/4 inch, and we are going to back stitch. And here we go. All right, so we'll trim off our corners here, get rid of the bulk. And then we're going to turn it inside out. All right, so this is my top, and I'm just going to top stitch it just to give it a nice little fresh look. I'm going to do 1/2 inch. I'm going to bump this up to about 3.5 for my stitch length. So this is the top part that I will stitch down onto the lining. So my opening, once I get it stitched to the lining, will disappear. All right, so I did fuse this on, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim things up. Just get it ready to sew. Some of the interfacing is peeking through, and I just don't want that to get in my way of my seam allowance. I'll just come around to each side. All right, so we'll do that to this one. We'll add our pocket next. Well, instead of the pocket next, we are going to add, we're going to cut down. So next, we're going to box up those areas. We're going to save one of these for our tab to go inside. So we'll just toss that aside. Don't get rid of it. Okay, keep all of these because we will be using them shortly. Okay, so we're going to take one of these pieces, and there is the top of our pocket. I don't put it all the way down to the line because there is going to be 1/4 of an inch. And so I like to bring it up just a tad. Let's tuck in all of those. There we go. Let's just kind of line up the centers here. And we'll just pin this into place, and we're going to stitch all the way around. And then we're going to decide how big our phone is and stitch another line down this way. Okay, to make our tab, we're going to cut this down to 2 by 3. So we need 2 by 3. Trim that off. Now we're going to fold this in half, fold it in half again, fold it in half again, and in half again. And then we're going to sew down each side. All right, so slip this through here, and we're going to stitch right up here, just so it'll stay together. All right, so there's our tab for the inside. All right, next we're going to put our zipper on. I'm going to use a zipper tape, and let's just go ahead and give us a little bit of room, and I'm just going to cut that off. I'm going to go ahead and put the little zipper pull on, and to do that I pull it out and I trim off with my craft scissors about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch. And then with the part that comes up into a V, I'll slip this side in, and then just kind of hold on to it, and then I'll slip this one in. All right. Okay. Lay it down, hold both sides, and you'll zip it up. So we're going to go ahead and just pull it to the tab, and you'll see now it zips really great. So we're going to trim this part off, and we're going to use one of our pieces, and we're going to stitch it on this side. Let's just find our halfway point here. And we're going to stitch it all the way down. Just go over slowly on those zipper teeth. You don't want to break your needle. Okay, so we're just going to finger press that down, flip it over, bring it over about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, and then we're going to bring it back over and just cover those stitches. Okay, and we're just going to stitch right across there. Again, go slow right here. Okay, so we've got our tab, we are going to go ahead and trim that off. And we've got to measure the other side and do the other side of the tab. To me, this is the trickiest part, is I want my tabs to be on the inside. So let's go ahead and cut that off. So I'm not taking it all the way over. I want to give myself a little room, so about a 1/2 inch. Here, my brain works better this way. So 1/2 inch. So we're going to sew this on here. And what I did is I used a ruler, just a tiny ruler, and I just measured. So my 1/4 inch is going to be right there. So I need that is 1.5 inches from that 1/4 inch from the edge. So I'm going to take this, put it on the edge. I'm going to mark this right there. And that is to the edge of the zipper tape right here. That's inside of this tab. Okay, so I'm not going to tear it off or just cut it off just yet, because I'm going to sew this on first. Okay, so I'm going to stitch this on first, right through there. I always have to stop and think about this one. I don't know why it's not automatic, but it's not. All right, so we've got tabs on both sides. We'll just go ahead and open this out a little bit. We're going to turn it this way. So you see we have area on both sides, and that's what we want. So let's go ahead with the zipper facing down. Okay, I switched this out because I like to start with the front of my bag. It's just how my brain works. Okay, and we're going to come and just clip all this down. And you see we've got room here. That's what we want. Since this is the front of my bag, I want the lining that does not have the pocket in it. And we're going to turn it around and clip it right in there, making this little zipper sandwich. Now we're going to take it to the sewing machine and stitch all the way down. All right, so I just like to kind of finger press this down for now. We'll come back and iron it, but I want to get the other side on. Okay, so I'll just kind of run my nail across there to flatten that out. And we're going to do the same on this side. We're going to take our piece, line it up here, because you want your green bandana or whatever color you chose to be facing each other. Okay, just line up the edges. Stick a couple clips in it before we flip it over. Okay. Now we'll take the side with our pocket and line up with the top. Clip it together just like we did before. Make that quilt sandwich. Make sure your zipper, the edge of your zipper tab is at the edge. All these raw edges. Pull that up. Sandwich it all together. Use as many pins or clips as you want. Make sure you've got at least 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 right there. Okay, now we're ready to sew down this side. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, lift up, and get under there so I can move my zipper back. All right, so now go ahead and put that down. Make sure everything is lined up before I start stitching. All right. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to kind of finger press that back, just like that. Flip this over. Go ahead and zip it up for now. And finger press this. This is going to be a little bit thick, so it's going to be a little tricky, but we can do it. So let's do this side first. And I'm just pulling on the lining, and then I'm going to iron it down. It's kind of like making a zipper bag. I mean, it's exactly like making a zipper bag, but it's bigger. It has a different function, so we're going to put a handle on it. You'll notice I haven't done that yet because that's the last step. Okay, so let's come over here and iron that flat. It's got a lot of thickness right in there. So let's go ahead and do the same with this side. Run our iron down the center there. I'm going to flip it over. Okay. All right, so I'm going to pause the video right here because I missed an important step. I'm going to see if you have figured it out. This is the bag that I made that we're making on this video, and I forgot to do the top stitching. I didn't realize it till I almost had this done. And although it works, I want to show you what it should look like. And I'm going to put a little video just right up in here in just a moment. And you can see that the top stitching, it just finishes it off. It holds everything in place. And you can just kind of see the difference here. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to put that video right here. And once you have everything laid out, you've got your quilted fabric and your lining, you're going to top stitch that down right next to the zipper on both sides. So here's what that looks like. All right, so that's on. Now we're ready to just flip it over. All right, so we're going to attach this here pretty soon. But what we want to do right here is make sure that V goes that way. And we're going to line up. So we're folding that tab in and we're lining up our sides. And we're going to clip it. And we're going to clip down here, because we're going to run our seam down this way. Okay, so let's go ahead and slip this guy in here about right there, kind of towards the top. I guess I'm about 1.5 inches down. Clip that and clip our end. Okay, so this is the bottom. We're going to stitch from here to here. So we'll clip there and there. Now let's come over on this side. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to leave an opening. We'll leave an opening about like from here. Let's bring it down about here. If you get it too far up, it's really hard to maneuver the side seam. Okay, so same thing. We're going to fold that tab towards the lining and line up our seams and clip. Okay, so we're only going to stitch to there. And then we're going to stitch from here to here. And then the bottom of the line of the bag, this is where it's like, where do I want to put my tag? I think I'll put it on the side. I think I'll put it on, I'll put it on this side as I stitch it up like I did last time. What did I do on this one? Oh, the tag was on one side and this little guy was on the other. Okay, so that's exactly the way this is going to be. Okay, we're ready to take it and get it stitched. All right, I'm going to put my stitch length about 2.5 to 3. And I'm just going to run this at about 1/2 inch over here. Just to give myself plenty of room. It tends to kind of come up a little bit. And be sure to back stitch. Now we're going to clip our edges. And I do like to trim in here just a tad, just to get rid of some of that bulk. You can see I didn't do much. Same thing within here. Okay, so the next part is to open this up, line up our seams, and now we're going to stitch through all of this bulk about a 3/8 of an inch, and that's going to create our bag bottom. We're going to do that to all 4 sides, the lining as well as the outside. Okay, it's easier just to go ahead and clip down one side, pull it in, and just stitch it down. All right, this is a project that makes me hot. So the next thing we're going to do is make sure all my seams lined up, is we're going to go ahead and bring this inside out. And you know what? I forgot to open the zipper. Okay, I did that another time. You should always open the zipper. But thankfully, this zipper, even though it's closed, it is pretty easy to open. But if you use just a regular nylon, it's not. And I should have showed you that. I did that on Jennifer's. Okay, so I'm going to open the zipper. Now my zipper is open. Now I can get down in here and pull all of this through here a little at a time. See, here's how. I'm just going to pull it through. All right, I'm going to get in all those corners and pull it. Okay, there's one of the boxed bag ends. Here is the other one. I'm just pushing through with my fingers. That's the bottom. This is the bottom of the lining. Just going to push those corners out, and I'm going to just take it to the iron and just kind of iron those flat. We're almost done. Okay, so I am going to iron a few things down. Just kind of make sure things are nice and flat before I stitch up the side. And before I stitch up the side, I'm going to put in my label. I have right over here, all ready to go. Just going to iron that flat. And this side too. See, there's our tab, exactly where we want it. You can iron this side. I don't find it's really necessary. So now we're going to find our opening. And we want to close this opening, but before we do, we're going to iron it down. Then I'm going to slip my tag in there. Just give it a good press. And I'm just going to fold my tag in half. I'm going to slip it in there. And clip it. Now I'm going to stitch all the way down. I like to do the side versus the bottom because it tends not to show that much. I'm going to go above where I started stitching, just a couple stitches. And do about 1/8 of an inch. All right, so I'm going to get down here to my label. Just make sure everything gets caught. All right, this is the exciting part. This is where we can put this in the bag. Now, you could just use this just like this if you want it as like a laptop bag. It's like the same thing. Okay, so I'm just going to push out my ends. Perfect, perfect. You know what I forgot to do? Is top stitch. Oh, there's always something. I have learned making these bags, I get ahead of myself. So I am going to come back and top stitch. Otherwise, it's going to come up like that. Okay, so our bag is almost complete. So I did forget to top stitch up here. You know, each bag, I forget something. I don't think it's going to matter. I'm going to try, I can always go back and top stitch it later, but I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Here's the handles I'm going to put on this bag. They're leather handles. I get them from Amazon. I will definitely link it below. And this is the outside of the handle. They are a bit tricky. The first time I did one, it took me forever. I'm starting to kind of get my groove down. And I'm going to go ahead and use these lines right here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to put the handle right here. So I'm going to come down an inch and make a mark right on that seam line. And is that equal? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to come down an inch, and let's see, that's 1.5 inches. But let's do the inch on both sides, making sure we're on the same side. Did I do an inch? Yes. Okay, I think, yep, nope, yep, here we go. Just make sure they're on the same side. And then we're going to come down 1.5 inches from this line for the bottom piece of hardware. Okay. So I want to make sure I see it. Okay, we do have to make a little hole, and we're going to go this way with our bag. So we're going to take the piece that's flush like that, stick it in there. I do both at the same time. Okay, let's open this up. You need something like the end of your little scissors. I'm using my embroidery scissors, and I'm going to make just a little hole right there. And I'm going to take that top one and I'm going to put it in that hole all the way through. This is the tricky part, is sometimes you just have to kind of play with it. Find your other side. So that way you see it coming up, coming through there. Sometimes I'll stick my scissors here. And all of a sudden it will just kind of break through. And it's almost to where you can see the gold part. I just kind of rub that around. Okay, now we're going to take the screw part, stick it in there. This is the trickiest part, especially if you have nails. I need trimmed. And we're going to stick that in there and just screw that in. I do get my Phillips screwdriver and do a final push there. Okay, now we just kind of want to make sure, yep, our marking is correct. And we're going to do the same thing here. Before you go, I have one more thing. If you love this bag but don't have the time or the desire, I get it, to sew one yourself, I make these by hand and they're available in my Etsy shop in a variety of fabric choices. You can find the link in the description below. Whether you make one yourself or let me make one for you, I hope this bag becomes a favorite you'll enjoy for years. Thanks so much for watching. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more sewing tutorials, and I'll see you in the next video.